Yeah, now we have one more session, but I don't know whether you are really still charged to, take one more session or, because this is essentially going to be a panel discussion. So, wherein we wanted to have some kind of, debate on, or some, thought-provoking discussion on how to take electromagnetics education and research ahead, move ahead in India. So, shall we still go ahead with that? Now it is 6 o'clock. Yeah, yeah. Probably what we could do is instead of having a formal panel discussion, we can have some comments from few participants, and and we can wind up in about 15-20 minutes. Is that fine? Because it's already 6 o'clock, and I think dinner is at 7 o'clock. But I want you to relax a little bit and enjoy campus. Go around, because sitting throughout the day is not a good thing. So what we'll do is maybe I will throw open some questions, and maybe one or two comments on each of those can be there from any participants. So in fact that would be better. Is it not? Is this okay? So maybe first question that I would like you to raise is we actually, of course, after Professor Shegavkar's lecture, I think we are quite clear about how to teach this subject, is it not? And the onus really lies on teacher to make it really interesting and first question I had in mind was related to the main theme of the workshop, pedagogy. So I think we have enough sort of inputs now how to make the subject interesting, and but still if somebody really wants to add something on his experience of having taught some concept, and students liked it very much or something like that, that can be shared. So is there somebody who wants to share something? Yeah.
You see, this is based on what Dr. Bhide talked about, explaining the concepts of gradient, divergence, and curl. The example of curl which he gave pertains to time varying vectors, because the students should be clear in their mind as to what is meant by space rotation and time rotation, because basically the definition of curl is of space rotation. Time variation doesn't come into it, but there is a general tendency that we explain the curl by taking velocity, where the velocity is a function of time.
So another concept which I want to highlight is like, one, we should explain the conservative and non-conservative nature of fields and impress upon that conservative fields cannot really do any work, and like non-conservative fields. So those kind of things, like if you have some electric field, static electric field, it cannot really lead to any work. Suppose you connect a resistor across it, you cannot have because in that resistor heat is dissipated, that is work done. So you need some external agent like battery or something which will actually produce static field, as well as that battery will produce that work that is getting dissipated in that resistor, something like that. So concepts like conservative, non-conservative fields, and and as my own experience is, this kind of understanding comes not by just reading one book, but if you read at least 4 or 5 books, then you develop your own some kind of understanding, and then you are able to teach better. So there is no shortcut but to read and listen, as Professor Shegavkar also said, read or listen to the greats, their lectures on video or books and all that. Then you will have some uniform or some understanding, then that will be helpful to for you to teach to the students. Yeah, Professor. Yeah.
Feynman's lectures, there is one excellent book on electromagnetism which can be read as a topic of relaxation, and that book is Professor Elliot. Elliot's Electromagnetics is really a wonderful book to read and appreciate all the internal working of the phenomena.
Recently read another book by P. Hammond, Electromagnetics for Engineers, but that is mainly for the low frequency guys. He has only one chapter on radiation, but again he explained the whole concepts of basically low frequency as one is telling story. So those kind of books one should read so that your concepts get consolidated. Yes, Dr. Uday. Yeah, maybe yeah.
Just I want to share one experience which actually I had after teaching a course. This is how to bring the concept of radiation from Maxwell's equation. So if you look at Maxwell's equation, the only source which can create radiation is charges. You have a charge density and a current. So based on this, I thought about it, and then I think using this concept, you can explain beautifully all radiation starting from very low frequency up to gamma rays. Because if you look at the equation, you see that radiation can come only if the charges are accelerated. Because static charge cannot give radiation, and a charge moving with uniform velocity can only give a constant magnetic field. So if you want a time varying magnetic field, you need acceleration of charges. So if you look at all the phenomena of radiation, for example, if you take gamma rays, there are transitions which are taking place inside the nucleus of the various levels. And when a proton gets transformed from one level to other level, there is an acceleration of charge. And this is a very high energy, that's why you get a very high energy. Similarly, when you come to a electronic structure, the core electron transformation gives rise to X-rays. Because there also there is a transition and accompanied by a acceleration. So if you look at all this, and the same way you can explain up to the radio frequency also, that in a piece of wire also there is a charge is accelerating and that is giving a radiation, but energy is very low because the binding energy is small. So this actually beautifully explains how Maxwell unified the whole law starting from radio waves up to this one. So this way I found that it is very instructive to understand how radiation is coming because of charges. All radiation must be accompanied by acceleration of charges. So that is what I...
Professor Uday wants to say something.
So I wanted to share one experience that I had with in the course that I taught in the previous semester, which to me was one of the most profound things about electromagnetism. All the experiments that Ampere and Faraday did back in the 1800s, they were working with wires, measuring force between wires or measuring how two parallel plate capacitors can charge, measuring electric fields. And then Maxwell comes and adds a displacement current. And then before you know it, you have a theory about why sun's light takes 8 minutes to come to Earth. It's just profound, right? You're working with wires and capacitors, and now you know how an electromagnetic wave travels across space. So communicating that to, first of all, to myself and then to the students, you could see the light going on, So for me, that was a very nice concept.
Great.
Padukule, I am from Government Engineering College, Amravati. For curl and gradient, we generally, if we know the source, then we can calculate the electric field around the source. But in case of D and B, means flux density, electric field or magnetic, only it is given. Then how to calculate or how to know that field? And for that we use the curl and gradient. Generally the curl is the direction related, and the divergence is the magnitude related. And these two concepts better gives if the source is not known, only the electric field is, and magnetic field is given. That is useful.
Yeah. So one small experience, because when we talk about say cool, it's 1 million ton force, which is not possible in practice, right? I mean, that we can realize that one coulomb is not the practical to realize that unit. We can go first nanocoulomb or picocoulomb. So maybe that can be a good exercise.
Good. So I think we'll go to the next point because we want to finish we want to finish within definitely next 15-20 minutes. So next question that I want to ask is what can be done to improve courses and labs related to electromagnetics in India particularly. Now we had two very interesting lectures, one from COEP and the other from Anna University. One was on really the lab development of related to machines and electromagnetic phenomena. And Dr. Usha from Anna University, she basically talked about how to the simulations and FEM related things, how they can be used to explain concepts. So does anybody have any further? See, what I was thinking was one thing could be done at national level is we already have these NPTEL courses. And in fact, two of those sort of originators of those courses, where one has left, of course, Professor Ramchandran. And Professor Shegavkar is the another one those two courses are anyway already there at more or less undergraduate level, and then I think there are at postgraduate level also there are one or two, and some courses are coming. Like I understand that one course on computational electromagnetics is being done, and it will be available in 6 months' time. Apart from these courses, what needs to be done? Of course, you can listen to these courses and of course you develop your own material. So is there something that needs to be done additionally to help the teachers all across the country to teach this subject in a better way? So are there some suggestions?
Sir, I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Sir, if you can, if anyone of these stalwarts can offer a MOOC course on this, because right now NPTEL is just a one-way communication. But when we open a MOOC, massive online open courses kind of a thing, then it will be a two-way interaction. And in that time, student will learn also, and they will also credit the course. So right now, this is very much thing which is in, and many students are opting for this. In fact, last year for Anant Agrawal course, some 2 lakh students credited this across the world. So if we can offer MOOC,
Which course?
circuits and electronics.
I see.
So similar way, if
It was given by whom?
MIT Professor Anant Agrawal, and right now IIT Bombay is also offering one MOOC course. I don't know the name, but similar way, if any one of the stalwart can offer this course, and MOOC course is a two-way communication, so that will help all over India. Those who are having a remote geographical location, they'll be able to access those things, and all will be benefited.
Okay, I think it's a great suggestion, and I think Professor Uday Khankoje also had some suggestion about can we create some kind of modular, smaller, topic-wise, some, something like that. So maybe that also can be thought about. Yes. So any other suggestion?
The way MOOCs runs, actually it requires a lot of time. Infrastructure may be there probably, but time, you spend time. I have a simpler suggestion. The NPTEL courses are there. Anybody who has problem with NPTEL courses, send me a question. Okay? But ultimately, when there is a 2 lakh class, psychologically we think there is a two-way communication. But basically it is a one-way communication only. Because if all 2 lakh people start asking questions, there is no lecture. So psychologically it feels that, well, I can ask a question as and when I want. So in the interim, what we can do is, whenever somebody gets stuck, send a question to my email or anybody, and I'm sure there anybody. And let us create a wiki kind of thing. Here's a question which goes to everybody. Yeah, I know the answer. I will answer this. And maybe a KB can be a proctored monitoring. So once in a while we can just sort of see, and because whenever there is a wiki, lot of wrong answers also will get built in that process. Somebody can sort of proctor it and say, well, this discussion I saw for last 10 days, that's not the right thing. This is the right thing in that. So maybe we can build a group around to sort of see and make it more interactive till we have a full MOOC kind of structure.
Like we have a power group, power globe, or Indian power community group, so something like that. Only thing, it has to be properly administered, and people should give some time. Those who are expert, they should give some time for answering the queries, and it could be a good thing.
Just to add to this, there is a whole family of websites on the internet called Stack Overflow, dedicated to each field: electromagnetism, physics, computer science, coding, everything, and very, very good quality questions are asked over there, and then people answer. and as answers, anyone can provide an answer, but the readers will say, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. So the reputation of users sort of grows that way, and bad answers tend to get filtered out. So and I've used it even for looking up research problems. It's a very useful tool. So Stack Overflow.
Yeah, but then these teachers may have or teachers or students of electromagnetics, they may have simpler questions, and
You will be surprised. There are very, very simple, basic, but very profound questions over there. They are more in number on these sites.
Probably what we can do is we have email addresses of, there were actually almost 250 expressions of interest for attending this workshop. So at least I think about 200 have at least so we have all email addresses. Probably I request you to send those links of what you are
Sure.
saying, and probably they can make use of that, right? Something like that. Okay, so moving on to the next one. Yeah, so of course this is related to the earlier thing. So is it worthwhile to think on developing some kind of common pool of resources for but that I feel university wise syllabus is different and all that. Probably what should be done is the university teachers, they should come together and they should probably based on these NPTEL courses and all that, there should be some kind of movement, like they come together, and if there are 40 lectures, each lecturer takes care of 4 or 5 lectures and prepares PPT or PDF files based on all these NPTEL courses and then shares with all. So that kind of so is there some suggestion on this, or it is too difficult to have something like this?
I have slightly different views on this topic. When we look at our education system in the country, we are a society having 4,000 colleges, and therefore one solution will not apply to entire bandwidth or spectrum of the students. What is happening? Perhaps this university, with the exception of Maharashtra, almost each state has one university and 1 lakh and 400, 500 colleges attached to it. And to such a larger bandwidth, I think even one electromagnetic course, maybe NPTEL or whatever MOOC, may not be sufficient. We need to have multiple courses having diversified breadth and depth, so that the absorption becomes easier.
In this connection, in fact, to the TechCube coordinators, we have already said, that means, whenever what could be done is, whenever we go to some engineering college, some place, we should offer ourselves to give lecture on this electromagnetics and related areas to the, remote engineering colleges, because here, we find mostly, the participants are from, sort of so-called elite cities in Maharashtra, is it not? Mumbai, Pune, Aurangabad and all that. But there are so many engineering colleges in remote areas. So we should do sometimes, some thing for them also. But anyway, so the process should be on continuously. Yeah, so next is, we have seen there is, there were at least 3 presentations today which clearly showed that in research organizations like BRC and defense, there are enough opportunities for applying electromagnetics, and but they are really eager to collaborate, and probably academics is probably in its own shell, and probably we are not reaching up to them, or probably sometimes they also are not feeling that confident whether academics can really take up such challenging problems. So I think such workshops will definitely help the two ends to come together, and some projects can happen which have implications at the national level. They are of importance to the nation. So any thoughts on this topic or this discussion? Anyone?
I think Professor Shegavkar has given a blueprint what an education should do.
Yeah. So our main job is to produce good engineers with sound knowledge of electromagnetics, and then they anyway will go to the industry and research organization and deliver. But apart from that, some research projects also can be initiated with collaborative efforts, and I'm sure the both sides should continue interacting and do the needful. So
Students can go and do their projects in that area, so that at least at the small scale level we can have collaboration with VARC. Basically, our students are doing that.
yeah, but some of the projects that like defense and all, they are really looking for some outputs which with and time bound. So a much larger or greater effects, concentrated efforts would be required. So I think we academic people, we need to get geared up to take up such kind of challenging projects to help such research organizations.
At least channelizing should start.
Yeah.
And afterwards,
So at least we should tell our students that some of these are very important projects. And see, in today's world of power electronics and smart grids, we are actually leaving out some of these important areas, which are of national importance. So that actually I wanted to highlight. Oh, yes.
A lot of time is lost in teaching because the school teaching of physics and mathematics has not been properly linked with the teaching of maths and physics, particularly in engineering colleges. If we have a better coordination between schools and colleges on the teaching of applied maths and applied physics, a lot of unnecessary duplication which is happening now could be eliminated and the time would be better utilized.
Sir, I'm working in BARC. We are in the electromagnetic application section. We are involved in a lot of the electromagnetic system design. But the main problem comes is one is the theory part of understanding the equations and understanding the concepts. But how do we apply that concept to our real life problem? Okay, one thing is that understand the equation, have a finite element package is there, model it directly, it gives the result. And a physical inference also I can do. But if you want to really understand, optimize a design, you have to have some sound mathematical background for solving those equations. That is where I feel, even though you understand the concept, but how to apply them to the real life, solving those equations, mathematics, the sound background of that mathematics is, which is causing a lot of problem to take this further also.
That is where I think academic people can definitely help you, because you may not have time to get into the depth of those, but we can definitely help. So that is a sort of low hanging fruit that we can together can always go for. So I think we should work together, academic and research organizations like BRC. Yeah.
There was a talk here sometime by Gallagher. All of you know, people who work in communication, there's a Gallagher book, which is a communication network book, which is there. He was giving a talk here, and he said he had a complex communication systems, and he wanted to solve that system, and he went to Shannon to solve this problem. So what Shannon did, Shannon first looked at the problem and asked him, there's so many parameters which you are having in the system, which is the real system which you are talking about. Is every parameter in this system equally important? So he said, well, look at this parameter. Do you think it is very important? He said, no, take it away. You think this is very important? He said, no, just take it away. So finally, this real life complex problem was reduced by Shannon to a very simple problem. Once you understand that simple problem, then he said, now put one by one that parameter which you threw away and ask what will happen. That's the way it works. So if you take a very complex problem and try to formulate it, even with basic good concept, you will not be able to do that. First you see, if I approximate that problem, how can you visualize it? Then you put more higher effects, and then the numerical solution, when you get it, it will make much more sense to you. Otherwise, if you take a real life problem, simple concept, closed form solutions will never work, because the problem will be very complexly defined, and closed form solution may not even exist. You look for very numerical solutions for that.
Yeah, so the last point that I want to raise is that I think Professor B.N. Chowdhury also mentioned that in one of the universities this electromagnetic subject was in fact dropped and all that, and I think still it is in that condition, and this is really not a desirable situation. And in most of the electrical and electronic engineering colleges, they are heavily based on these circuits and networks, and everything is reduced to that kind of thing. And generally, since the faculty is not there who want to teach, and although this is like a vicious circle. And other thing is like, if you go to the other departments like civil and mechanical, the corresponding counterparts like the strength of materials and the corresponding FEM analysis that is required, that is like their bread and butter. You go to any civil and mechanical department, in their 4th year they have a more or less compulsory course on finite element analysis, and once you have compulsory course on FEM and all that, you need to know all those related concepts, stress distribution and all that. That means the space is always there when you talk of mechanical stress and in civil the kind of stresses. So that is sort of automatic. They don't ask questions whether this is essential or not. That is their bread and butter. Unfortunately, in electrical engineering, there is, in fact, in IIT Bombay also, there is no formal way in which one can teach finite element analysis and machines or analysis of waveguides and antennas, field distribution. There is no sort of course at the undergraduate level. So we need to make conscious efforts to sort of impress upon students and those academic people who are influential in designing course curriculum and all that, these are also important. I find in some of the universities, particularly in South, and Anna University is one example. Now they have introduced FEM as course at 4th level, 4th year. So some efforts need to be done at at various level to make people understand that this kind of thing is important. And see what happens from industries, we get call, we want specialist, electromagnetic specialists like GE, Siemens, Alstom and so many companies. They need once they go to the industry, they find that they have a lot of these commercial softwares, but there are not analysts, as Compton presentation showed, that they want not FEM operators but they want FEM analysts, and FEM analysts cannot be there unless they have sound background in electromagnetic fields. So we need to sort of impress upon the influencing those people who design curricula that this subject and the corresponding FEM kind of thing is important to be included in the curriculum. So any suggestions or opinions?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, in mechanical engineering, as you said, it's like they have to design structures, then they have to know the distribution. So FEM naturally comes into picture. But is it the case that in case of electrical, the design aspect, like device design or let's say inductor design, something of that sort, so that design aspect is not coming into picture. That is the reason why it's being ignored.
Yeah, see, for example, in IIT Bombay, there used to be a course, Electrical Design Lab, at 4th year. And I used to take that ever since I joined IIT Bombay. I took it for 9 years. And I used to, through that lab, I used to give exposure to the student about all this FEM and all that. And in the revised curriculum, number of credits had to be reduced. So this was one of the course that was, sort of immediately, sort of without any discussion, it was removed. So now, in fact, our EE students, they are not even exposed to any numerical technique. There used to be a course on numerical techniques like, ordinary differential equation, and physics department used to take for us. That course also got dropped. So now our EE students, they are not exposed to any numerical technique, sort of, for solving ordinary differential equation or partial differential equations. So this is this is not a good sign. So, we need to improve on this. Yeah, any other, yeah.
So the first point was very nice because 10 years back, I think you started the course of computational electromagnetics, and it's my example, right? I mean, when we derived Jacobian ourselves using MATLAB, and then we solved in ANSYS and Magnet, it was really great feeling that whatever we solved in MATLAB, we could get the same feeling what ANSYS could do. So you should know just treat them as black box, and we can actually see what happening inside that black box. The second part was Rahul said is, unlike mechanical things, I believe the electrical machines, and Dr. Ramanik can add to it, already machines are such a matured field. Right, I mean, our transformer is already now running at 99% efficiency. So, is it not like, I mean, the machine design itself is very stationary field now, or you see stand up for the growth in that area?
No, actually, I don't fully agree with you, because as you said, 99 transformer is a 99.7% efficiency fellow. But if you take a large transformer, like 500 MVA transformer, the losses in that transformer with that efficiency is still 600-700 kilowatt. And there the competition is so high that even to reduce 1 or 2 kilowatt, you can ask Saravanan, you need to do, months of FEM analysis. And, then only you can reduce 1 or 2 kilowatt. So from going from 99.7% efficiency to 99.71, you require great efforts in terms of understanding electromagnetic fields. So again the same unfortunate part is, like when we teach electrical machines, we basically again transformer, induction motor and all that, we finally that topic ends with giving equivalent circuit. And then again the students will, okay, equivalent circuit is there, so we don't bring in fields, whereas that equivalent circuit, see, I have that because I have worked in transformer industry. That equivalent circuit of transformer, I never, in my 11 years of industry experience, I never used even once that equivalent circuit. Because that equivalent circuit is the result of the design and finally testing of the transformer. For designing of a transformer, that equivalent circuit is of no use. So these kind of things have to be impressed on the students, that the equivalent circuit is like, it is the end result of all the design and manufacturing and testing and whatnot, all the result. That is not really the starting point. But we end our transformers, induction machines and with an equivalent circuit. So the students are again inclined to think that circuit is the last thing, and field loses or goes to the background. Anyway, so I think it is 6. Okay, maybe last comment and then we will wind up this session.
Sir, I am Archana Lakhe. I am from SPC, Sardar Patel College. About the MATLAB and software we are using in electrical engineering, but the simulation methods and the background, mathematical equations, that has not been taught properly. Like we are using ODE, ordinary differential equation 45 method, 21 method. So students are they are just clicking it and finding out the solution, whether the solution they are getting or not getting, but they are not going the depth of that ODE, like ODE we are, in a short form we are telling that ordinary differential equation. So that part should be taken care, I think.
So anyway, we should make some conscious effort to improve the understanding of students. And probably at some level we should work together to have some such workshops, more workshops at various places, so that things will be better in years to come. So okay, I think it is 6:35 now, and I think that time is there to close this today's this thing. And I hope all of you enjoyed, and you will dream now electromagnetics today, I think, in the night. So that is what is going to happen probably. So tomorrow again is a packed day. As I told in the morning, there are going to be 4 tutorials, and it will be I have told those speakers to make it to the level of most of you, not go into too much of equations. So I think we will look forward to interesting tutorial sessions tomorrow. Okay then. So see you tomorrow and enjoy your dinner. Okay. Thank you.